These 4 women believe that Karen Reed struck John O'Keefe with her SUV.
Ian also did a experiment where he drove with his phone. If the phone was docked or put down, it didn't count steps.
During the time for which John approached the breezeway, there were many ridge surfaces, but there's one in particular that many of the witnesses swore was located not where John was walking, but out by the mailbox.
There is no way to get into the garage from the house.
I've seen him go to the door and start to cross the threshold.
He walked into the house. I think he was confronted, was likely brought down to the basement.
These 4 women believe that Karen Reed struck John O'Keefe with her SUV on that fateful morning. They have a new YouTube channel, and it's very important both sides listen to each other to figure out who actually killed John O'Keefe,
Brian Higgins,
and when he did it.
I think that confrontation got physical. He was beaten to a point of unconsciousness.
The location data that shows accurate tends to show around the flagpole area.
When you look at that picture of the house, there's the front door, there's the breezeway door, and then there is a side door. That side door goes into the garage. There is no way to get into the garage from the house.
This is a view of the breezeway for which Karen Reed claims she saw John enter on that fateful morning. We're not sure if he actually entered the house through this door on the left here, or potentially went into the garage, which is the door right here on the right.
In order to get into the garage, you have to come out of the house. Like, let's say you're at the breezeway, so you'd come out of the breezeway and you would enter that side door, or you could go through the overhead doors. Once John was in the house, he would have had to been walked back out of the house and either walked through that side door or the overhead doors.
She's making a great point. If you believe John entered the house after he exited Karen's SUV at 12:24 and approximately 28 seconds, he would have had to then come back out of the house and then go into the garage if he actually went into the garage.
The important part of that is the 36 steps. There was only 36 steps.
At 12:31 and 56 seconds, his phone starts to record movement, and it ends at 12:32 and 16 seconds. After that time, there was no recorded movement on the phone.
It's not possible for him to have gone in the house and then come back out of the house. Please remember that there is no way, once you're in that house, to get into the garage without going outside again.
She's making a great point. Had John O'Keefe been in the house right after he exited the vehicle, there would be movement on the phone from the house into the garage. Our current hypothesis is Brian Higgins attacked John O'Keefe at approximately 12:25 a.m. as soon as he exited the vehicle before entering the house. And the subsequent interactions and movement of the phone were not when John was alive, but after he was attacked.
So in the first trial, the defense was fitting their theory to the information they had, and they had that stair flight information. That stair flight information happened before they arrived. They were fitting it to that. That's why they had him going in the house, up and down the stairs. I did see a comment that was saying that the street was mostly flat. Ian Whiffen did actually go through that too. He pulled up the topography map.
We see that all of these location points match the pattern of the road layout.
Each one of those data points was recorded on John's iPhone. They matched the exact route of the road that they took to get to 34 Fairview.
Again, it indicates how reliable the data is because the location data that's recorded recognize the vehicle slow, come to a stop, and then continue after the stop sign.
Is Maplecroft Road in Canton?
Yes. So at 24 minutes and 20 seconds, we see the device is already on Fairview Road.
In trial number 2, Ian Whiffen, with his data, evidenced the exact time John O'Keefe's phone pulled up to 34 Fairview.
24 minutes and 28 seconds, traveling at 14.5 miles an hour, at which point it's approximately outside number 34, around the driveway area. Finally, the device comes to a complete stop at 24 minutes and 38 seconds. The information I found on John's phone was essentially these 5 records. So between 11 minutes and 9 seconds and 21 minutes and 5 seconds, there were 170 steps recorded by the device.
The time period between 12:11:09 12:21:05, you don't have any independent information where John O'Keefe or his cell phone were, do you?
The location data that I showed to begin with on Washington Street was around 12 minutes after midnight.
This data is very critical, and it was pulled from John's Apple Health data. It indicates any movement of the phone during the relevant time frame. Between 12:22 and 14 seconds and 12:24 and 37 seconds, John's health data indicated that he ascended 3 flights of stairs. In trial number 1, we incorrectly assumed that that was John going up and down the basement for which he was beat. That's simply not true based upon the data.
So the presumption is that's where the location was at that time. And then 21 minutes and 5 seconds, the device had already started using Waze. It was already driving.
What time did you say that Waze was initiated?
It was approximately 19 minutes and 30 seconds.
At 12:14, John O'Keefe sent a text asking Jen McCabe where to.
John sent to me where to at 12:14.
In response, Jen called him and provided him the address 34 Fairview.
We called at 12:18 and 47 seconds. That call also was answered by you. John O'Keefe made that phone call, correct?
Correct.
Then John entered 34 Fairview into his Waze system, which was the directional app that he used in order to navigate to the house.
Ish. Again, we see at 21 minutes and 10 seconds until 24 minutes and 22 seconds, there are 80 steps recorded. Again, if you compare this to the location data, we know that the device was in a vehicle at this time.
The movement on John's phone between 12:21 and 12:24 and 22 seconds was initially thought to have been him inside the house. Based upon the GPS data, John was actually located in Karen's car during that time frame. Therefore, any theory that he was ascending or descending flights of stairs during that time frame is absolutely not correct.
Between 22 minutes and 14 seconds and 24 minutes and 37 seconds, we have 3 flight climb events that are aggregated into that time period. And again, the location data shows that the device was traveling in a vehicle at that time. So the location data shows it was in the car at the time, and my next few slides will demonstrate why. So we have the first record at 22:17, a flight climb event was recorded. I've highlighted that with a red line, and that equates to the red line that shows underneath the timestamp where the device was at that time.
John's phone indicates that he ascended 3 flights of stairs at exactly 12:22 and 17 seconds. However, the data indicates that he was actually in Karen's car at that very time.
Where the device was at that time. The second record is 22 minutes and 32 seconds, showed with a green line, which shows over here.
As Whiffy explained, the second time his phone indicated an elevation change was at 12:22 and 32 seconds, and he was nowhere near 34 Fairview.
And then finally, 24 minutes and 37 seconds after midnight, shows with an orange line down here outside 34 Fairview.
The last flight climbed, according to Whiffy's data, is 12:24 and 37 seconds, which is right about the time John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview. So perhaps that one data point indicates that maybe John ascended a flight of stairs. Let's keep watching.
Health activity events are recorded upon the event completion. The device doesn't know that you're about to walk up some stairs. It doesn't know that you're halfway up some stairs. It has to wait until you've reached the top in order to detect an altitude change has occurred. That change only gets written to the database once the flight climb has ended. I tested approximately 8 different phones, different models, different versions of iOS, and found that on average there was a time difference between 15 and 50 seconds between when I physically stopped walking up a flight of stairs and when the record was made.
Based upon his test, the Apple Health data records a flight change between 15 and 50 seconds after it actually occurred. So although we see the times that he ascended the stairs throughout the course of those previous minutes, it doesn't mean that was the exact time, and most likely it happened between 15 and 50 seconds prior.
You may recall earlier I said that it's a 3-meter incline that Apple considers a flight climb event.
That's critical. Whiffy claims that the phone will only record an elevation change if it's at least 3 meters, which is approximately 9 feet. John's phone recorded a flight climbed event 3 different times. One at 12:22 and 17 seconds, another at 12:22 and 32 seconds, and finally that one at 12:24 and 37 seconds. And according to Whiffy's chart, there was at least a 9-foot change in elevation at the points for where John O'Keefe was when the phone actually recorded it.
And compared that information to a topology website from the area. The white circles show the altitude of that particular location according to the topology website. For the red gradient, there's an increase from 43 to 47 meters.
This is what we really needed to see. Was there an elevation change throughout the path John O'Keefe took on that very night? And if you look here, the number 43 and the number 47 represent the elevation at those particular points. So clearly we can see that there is a significant enough elevation change to trigger a flight climbed event in the phone.
Green number 2, again, we're going from around 47 to 50 meters. And then with the orange gradient at the bottom, we've gone from around 26 to 28 meters.
He had explained earlier in the testimony, elevation is 3 meters, right? Not 3 meters. So 9 feet. If the elevation goes up 9 feet, the phone is going to consider that going up a flight.
She's 100% right. According to the topographical maps, the elevation does change enough to trigger a flights climbed event in an iPhone.
I know you're going to say, well, they were in the car, so it's not going to count steps. Ian also did a experiment where he drove with his phone. If the phone was docked or put down, it didn't count steps. However, if he held the phone while he was driving, it did count steps.
During his testimony, Whiffy explained he conducted several tests driving this exact very route. If he held the phone in his hand, it would record steps and elevation change. If he had it docked, it wouldn't.
I know that there's been a lot of reporting that all the streets are flat. It's completely flat. That's actually not true, and that actually was in the testimony. He showed it perfectly where those elevations were. It was while they were driving. More than likely, he was holding his phone. Where else would he put it? He was a passenger. He was looking. We know he was looking at the phone.
Ms. McCabe, we've talked in some detail about your calls with John O'Keefe on the morning of January 29th. There was a call at 12:14 a.m. That was a call that you indicated was answered. You had a conversation with Mr. O'Keefe.
So John sent to me where to at 12:14. Correct.
There was a call at 12:18 and 47 seconds. That call also was answered by you. John O'Keefe made that phone call, correct?
Correct.
And now the timeline is lining up beautifully. At 12:18, Hen McCabe calls John O'Keefe to give him directions. At 12:19, John punches 34 Fairview into the Waze app. But guess what happens just a minute later?
Yes, I said, are you coming here with 3 followed by 3 question marks?
That text was sent by Higgy Bear at 12:20 a.m. after threatening John O'Keefe at the waterfall just 25 minutes earlier. While Higgy Bear was sitting in his Jeep, he thought John was coming to fight. John really had no idea that Higgy Bear was so in love with Karen because he wasn't aware of all the texting, sexting, the meetings, the kiss.
I responded, coming to your house would have been bad for the both of us. For starters, you wouldn't have wanted me to leave.
And the ignoring of him at the bar.
Well.
While he approached the breezeway at 34 Fairview, he thought he was going to a friendly environment. However, Higgy Bear thought he was coming to fight, and that's evidenced by that 12:20 a.m. text randomly out of nowhere after threatening him, "Are you coming here?" In Brian Higgins' mind, John O'Keefe came to fight. In John's mind, most likely he had no idea the animosity brewing inside this big boy.
What time did the location data indicate that John O'Keefe's phone arrived at 34 Fairview on January 29th?
12:24 and 28 seconds.
This portly brother is the defense's expert in trial number 1. He claims that John O'Keefe's phone arrived at 12:24 and 28 seconds, which would eliminate 2 out of the 3 flights climbed based upon the data.
I think I said here, question mark. So this one is from myself to John, and it says here at 12:27.
Then there's the 12:29 and 44 second call that you indicated was not answered from you to him.
Correct. I sent to John, pull behind me.
In the lead up to the second trial, we started to hear these things about the garage. There's a picture of Alan Jackson, and he's by a ridge because Dr. La Posada said the only way that he would get that injury is if he hit his head on the ridge. So they conveniently find this ridge in the garage that just happens to be covered with, it looks like paint. If you look at the thickness of it, it's definitely thicker.
It's paint. It was the shutter paint. It was the paint from their shutters.
These girls claims the red paint found in the garage was from the shutters. Apparently they were painted the same color. However, I'd never learned that before, and I thank them for getting us that information. But they bring up a great point. Had John O'Keefe entered the house after he exited Karen's SUV, he then would have had to come back out of the house to eventually get into the garage. And based upon the lack of movement of the phone between that 12:24 and then the next movement, it seems very unlikely John O'Keefe would have done that, because you cannot enter the garage through the house. You must come outside and enter through either that side door or the 2 front doors. And remember, everyone in the house is looking outside at that point, and Ricky's in his F-150 truck along with 2 other people looking straight at that front yard where John O'Keefe's body would have been, or John O'Keefe would have been walking into the garage.
So I said, are you coming here with three, followed by 3 question marks?
What time did the location data indicate that John O'Keefe's phone arrived at 34 Fairview on January 29th?
12:24 and 28 seconds.
Dr. Laposada said the only way that he would get that injury is if he hit his head on the ridge. So
finding a surface that could have caused the injury to the back of John's head is not that hard. During the time for which John approached the breezeway, there were many ridge surfaces, but there's one in particular that many of the witnesses swore was located not where John was walking, but out by the mailbox. I wonder what that was. Not only do I want to thank these women for bringing out their theories for which we can test, I want to go on their show not to debate, but to learn more information as to how and when the real killer,
Brian Higgins,
attacked John O'Keefe. And no matter what, we are not going to stop producing these videos until the real killer,
Brian Higgins,
is brought to justice. This crime was very simple to solve because it took place within a very small area over a very short period of time with a very limited amount of suspects. One or more of these 10 people has to be the killer of John O'Keefe. That's how easy this is. Once you remove the kids and the McCabe's, you're down to just 3 suspects: Brian Albert, Higgy Bear, and Chloe. Since Chloe's a good dog, she didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I'm a good dog. I didn't do it.
So that leaves just 2 suspects, Brian Albert and Higgy Bear. But of the 2 Brians, only one had the means, motive, and opportunity to kill John O'Keefe. And that's our old cuddly but violent Higgy Bear. Once we had all the facts and didn't jump to conclusions, do you see how easy it was to solve this crime?
I had nothing to do with John's death.
Did you think you were going to get away with it, Proctor? That's right, legend.